Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the second update 1.89 dev server, and it's time to have a look at another aircraft which has come into the Italian tree. It has been really nice over this last year that they have been slowly but surely adding to the Reggiani line of the aircraft tree for Italy, and you can see that we're having another one here. This is the Re.2002 Early, which comes before the Re.2001 Series 1 and also after the Re.2000 GA. So overall, I'm very happy to see it here. It is adding once again to this wonderful Reggiani line, and hopefully we get stuff like the 2005 soon, just to try and round off the line in general. This is a rank 1 battle rating 2.3 aircraft. It has access to two 12.7mm Breda Safat machine guns and two 7.7mm ones. The 12.7s are mounted in a central position, as you can see right here and right here, and then of course these 7.7s are in the wings, so your main killing power is going to be from the 12.7s, which makes complete sense. And then of course you have the central engine, which is an Alfa Romeo RA1000 RC41 14 cylinder. 1000 horsepower overall for the machine. Then of course you've got the fuel tanks underneath and also behind, and then an oil cooling system. This seems to be air cooled, which makes sense for the radial itself. And also, if we have a look at the armor, there's a little bit of bulletproof glass, 50mm for the pilot, and then behind his head you have 8mm and then 8mm for a seat. So he's actually pretty well armored for a 2.3 aircraft, trying to keep that wonderful pilot alive. What is nice about all of these Reggiani aircraft, or at least the majority of them, is they aren't just fighters, they also are kind of multi-role. So one of the good things, especially with the Italian ground forces out now, is that this machine does not just have decent offensive weaponry for 2.3, it also has access to some wonderful bomb loads. So you can either get a 250, two 50s and a 250, or two 100s and a 250. As you can see, it is set up in a way so you can drop them in two sets, the 100s by themselves and then the 250s centrally, meaning that if you take this into ground realistic, you will get, you can at least get two targets on average with that. One of the things that Italy was lacking at the low tiers was support for their ground vehicles, and around about 2.3, you don't really have a lineup for Italy. Your main lineups are around 3.3 with the P40, the Contrario, and then at 3.7 with the Semovente 90 and the R3. But at 2.0 you have an okay lineup. You also have the 2.3 of the M1542, so at least there's something there you can build around with this new Re.2002. Meaning that at least you can get something done with it when it comes to its secondary bomb loads. I think its main purpose though is going to be a fighter when it comes to air realistic instead of focusing on the ground realistic area. We'll just take it into a test flight, and also the belts. So I always run APIT on the 12.7s. I have done for years now. I think it gives you the best chance to be able to do the most damage, and then you take stealth on the 7.7s if you're not comfortable with firing the stealth without being able to see. Of course, universal is the way to go for you. So yeah, it's kind of as simple as that. So let's just make sure we're not carrying bombs to get rid of that. And if we have a look at head-to-head combat, sure, let's go head-to-head. And MS406, well, that's at least an interesting idea, why not? The main advantages of these Re.2002s is your teammates that you have. Japan and Germany have incredibly strong aircraft around this tier. HE-100s and early BF-109s are incredibly dominant if you let them be. They also have access to some really nice bombers. The Italians also have access to stuff like the C-202, which it used to be called the MC-202 Folgore, and it is the plane which I have always said is one of those ones which you should, as an individual, play, because it is the perfect mix between an energy fighter and a turn fighter. you can use it to learn how to energy fight effectively at low tiers before you go into those top tiers and get murked by some of those crazy energy fighters or boom and zoom aircraft. So I like it as a trainer as much as anything, because even if you as an individual get into a bad situation, the 202 can get out of it, either through its maneuverability or through other areas. The Re.2002 should definitely be seen as not as strong as the 202. It fulfills a different role. It doesn't fulfill the out-and-out fighter role, which you will see from the 202. Instead, it fulfills the very maneuverable, more strike fighter role, I think is actually the way to see it, since it does have access to the bombs and everything like that. So instead of it being one of these aircraft that you're going to absolutely annihilate the enemy with, outturn them, outdo them, instead see it as one of those aircraft which is going to be more of a supportive cast in an aerialistic, but still do a ton of damage to enemies when it's allowed to. Another thing, it seems like the engine overheats incredibly quickly, which is very similar to a lot of other Italian planes that I've had the pleasure of flying. And also at 2.3, even though you have some great allies, so as I said, HE-100, what are you doing? You have like stuff such as the HE-100 and, as I said, the C-202. You also have the other side of things, where you start facing the early tier Spitfires, and also machines such as the VG-33, which are incredibly strong aircraft and will outdo you in the turn, and such as, the Spitfire will outdo you in the turn, and then the VG will pretty much outdo you everywhere if you let it. So even though this thing will be more of a middling of the pack fighter, it does have that extra component of being able to attack stuff on the ground, which with an ever evolving system when it comes to this new World War mode, when it comes to ground realistic, never count machines like this out because of their multi-role ability. Now it does mean that it will suffer in certain areas, right? Because obviously aerialistic favors either very heavy bombers or very, very heavy attackers, or aces, like the best fighters at their tier. So this plane may not find its place there, even though, as I said, it will be a very good supportive element. It still turns very well, it keeps its speed very well, at least against MS-406s, and the only issue that it's going to have is when it's in a one-on-one and the enemy understands that just don't turn horizontally with it, and we won't really be able to do anything here. So it's just it is definitely one of those things. It does lose a lot of energy going upwards, and what I mean by this is do not try and what I call it loop fights, but it's basically burning energy of the enemy against you. Also, the actual, like the stall fight would probably be more appropriate of a name. This is a stall fight, right? So you're bringing the enemy up, you have more energy going into this, therefore you can sit higher than them, and then when you come back down, which hopefully is going to happen soon, there we go, once you're coming straight back down, they should also be going down so you can leap on them. The problem is that this aircraft can't do that effectively, especially when you compare it to stuff like the Spitfire. So just be careful on that stuff. You much want to turn horizontally like this, or like this, or like this, than you do going upwards like this. So just keep that in mind. The ammunition count is very good for this machine. A lot of people don't like or have not liked the Breda Safat since they were changed a few years ago, just before the Italians or just after the Italians came out. I've personally always enjoyed them. They were great in the German tree. They are now great in the Italian tree. I've never had an issue with the 12.7s. The 7.7s don't do the best damage, but then again, they're not supposed to. They're 7.7s. I wouldn't like 7.7s being able to annihilate enemy aircraft. as fast as my 12.7s. What the APIT rounds on the 12.7s are able to do is set a lot of fires. They're able to do a lot of damage to wings, and if concentrated in the nose, like they are in this machine, they can do a lot of work for you at killing enemies incredibly quickly. And since not a lot of stuff has armor at this tier, having the access to the APIT means that you are able to just do so much damage to the center of aircraft. Like, you are able, as an individual, to penetrate everything that is on that aircraft and just shoot through it. And so one bullet is not just hitting a tail, it's also hitting the engine, it's also hitting the pilot, and so on and so forth. So before, with some rounds, such as the IT rounds and 7.5s, or the 303s from the British, you would be sat in situations where you're just hoping for fires. The 12.7s have the best of both worlds. They have the armor penetration and the ability to cause fires. So the armament on this, for the level that it's at, is wonderful. The secondary armament will make this plane when it comes to general use, but it still will struggle. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, why do I take this over the C202? And there is no answer, apart from maybe it turns slightly better when it is at lower speeds. Like, it's as simple as that. When it comes to this machine, there isn't really another reason to take this over the C202. So if you're looking for an out-and-out fighter, this might not be it. By the way, the cockpit's beautiful. It's a really nice cockpit. But if you're looking for a machine just to kind of, be that multi-role if you need it, and also be useful in more than just one game mode, this is the one to go for, compared to the out-and-out fighters of the Italian line. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matity, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goats and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.